Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Olga. Perhaps we are acquainted on social media as Honest Press. I'm there, and I hope we are connected there. If not, please go and follow. I mainly post on Blue Sky and Twitter sometimes, not that much, but Blue Sky mainly. Also other social media as well. So, and if you watch this for the first time, please then let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want me to add, and whatnot, because all of this is done for you, of course, and together with you. So please don't feel afraid or shy to comment, to ask questions, to even answer some questions. So please don't be afraid. We are communicating here together. So, of course, we're going to review national and global news. We're going to start with the second day of the shutdown. And then we're going to, of course, talk about this big Putin threat today and sort of him laughing in our faces and sort of admitting that, yes, he is behind those infamous, at this point, drones and UAVs that are cruising all around Europe, invading sovereign territory of various countries. We're also going to review the Copenhagen summit. The European leaders have met there. Per special invitation, the president of Moldova, Maia Sandu, who has been just reelected, was there as well. Of course, Moldova and Ukraine are now at this point on the fast track to join the European Union. So we're going to hear from them. I have the clips, I have the readouts. Sounds good? All right. So, day 2 of the shutdown, and Trump is openly targeting agencies that are, in his mind, benefiting Democrats or the blue states. He's also openly withholding money to blue states. So the government shutdown has entered its second day with no signs of resolution. And the Trump administration is using the moment to escalate its war on the federal workforce. And before I show you his tweet, I want to show you his other tweet from, let's say, July 24th, 2024, where Trump says, quote, "I have nothing to do with and know nothing about Project 25. He says on purpose here, not Project 2025, as if he was kind of unfamiliar with the subject. The fact that I do is merely disinformation put out by the radical left Democrat thugs. Do not believe them. DJT." This was July 24th, 2024, 1:41 p.m. Today's tweet, October 2nd, 2025. Trump says, quote, "I have a meeting today with Raswad P of Project 2025 fame to determine." So Russell is to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. Same signature, DJT. We were warned. I mean, I warned you. Everybody warned each other, I think. At this point, those who voted the way they did and trusted for Trump not to know or be familiar with Project 2025, here he is, openly stating that he is using the shutdown to benefit his agenda. The agenda that is clearly written in those 920 pages of Project 2025, which, by the way, only describes the first 180 days. Here's context. Trump's reference to Project 2025 is no accident. It's a sweeping plan to remake the US government by eliminating departments like education and energy. All of that is, by the way, described in the Project 2025. I read it. Purging civil servants and replacing them with ideologically aligned appointees. Now, what's happening now? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt warned that mass layoffs of federal workers are imminent. Trump's budget chief reportedly told House Republicans that cuts will begin within 48 hours, targeting agencies not aligned with the administration. Many federal workers remain in limbo. Some were told to report to work yesterday despite anticipating furloughs. And of course, this is TSA, the control towers. And we saw already yesterday in LaGuardia Airport, 2 Delta flights colluding, and just I'll show you the video once I'm done here. I did not upload it. Don't want to be banned on YouTube, but it was a collusion at LaGuardia Airport, Terminal 4, Delta flights, right after I left Delta Terminal at LaGuardia yesterday, which is kind of good for me, I guess. In a move seen as punitive, the administration canceled also $26 billion in previously approved funding for climate and transportation projects, primarily in blue states. 18 of them is just New York City. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Congress called the same votes as earlier in the week and got the same results, no progress. Now, let's check some comments. Let's say hi real quick. Hi, Michael. Hello. Hi, Sean. Happy almost Friday, right? Indeed. Yes, Thursday. Absolutely. Look, Mom, I'm a radical lefty, right? And I think we all, very shortly to be declared Antifa or something. Which does not exist, by the way, or stands for anti-fascism. So that is interesting. All of it is very interesting today. Now, something that is hella interesting, if I may so call it myself. America got screwed. Remember that message that Secretary of Agriculture sent Bessent, where she sort of was freaking out that, oh my God, we're bailing out Argentina with $20 billion. Javier Milei, remember the one with Musk dancing and everything. And, but meanwhile, China stopped buying our soybeans. And so our farmers in the US are now being screwed, especially those who voted for MAGA and really, really hope to be rich. Rich and famous. Now they're just famous, not rich. So what are we going to do, right? And how do we know that? Because the photographers took a picture over the shoulder behind Bessent, and he was reading that message in large script or whatever. And, that's how we know that she sent that message. But at a private event this week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recounted a striking exchange with China in Geneva. He asked why China stopped purchasing U.S. soybeans, and allegedly to him, they replied, one word, Biden. I mean, he's describing some type of a private event in Geneva that happened between him and Chinese. I guess he's actually referring to negotiations that they had in Europe recently. And all of that was presented on television. Let me show you the clip so you know this is legit. I'm not making this up. And then we're going to dissect and actually dive in as to who's profiting from that Argentina deal. Take a look.
And Joe, to go back on the ag purchases, and President Trump's Phase 1 trade deal that was signed in January 2020, there were over $50 billion of ag purchases. The Chinese followed through during President Trump's term in 2020, and then under President Biden, their feet were not held to the fire for these ag purchases. And at the meeting in Geneva, when I asked them, Why didn't you continue buying soybeans and the other products? They had one word. Guess what it was? Biden.
Biden. Oh, that sounds like malarkey. Come on, man. All right, Treasury Secretary.
That sounds like malarkey. Come on, man. Okay, so the moment obviously is laced with irony. So Bessent himself had once gone viral after receiving a furious text message from Secretary of Agriculture, right? This happened a few days ago, complaining that Argentina had cut a deal to sell soybeans to China instead of US, even as US was preparing a $20 billion bailout for Argentina's crumbling economy. The text read, quote, "Argentina screws us, China wins, while we hand them 20 billion?" End quote. Now, the same bailout is drawing fire for benefiting a billionaire hedge fund manager with close personal ties to Bessent and potentially to former president and now President Trump, right? So, and why do I mention former president, now president? That has been in the works before Trump came into power and started his second presidency. Same as with Project 2025. That took years to prepare because otherwise, how do you think? First of all, we had it at hand. It was published last year. And also, how else do you think those executive orders were already, over 100 of them, where Trump was, remember, signing them on stage right after the inauguration? So who is then benefiting from the Argentina deal? So according to Mother Jones' investigation, and by the way, for everything that I'm reading out here, I did the research based on many sources. This Reuters, Bloomberg, Mother Jones, Noticias Financieras, and El Cronista. So a bunch of things involved here. So let's just get through it. Now, the rescue package announced by Bessent included risky taxpayer-backed swaps of US dollars for Argentine pesos. Argentina isn't a major US trading partner, but it is a major investment interest for Rob Citron, a hedge fund billionaire who first invested heavily in Argentine debt under President Milei. He's a personal friend and former colleague of Bessent, dating back to their time working for George Soros. And he boasted of making Bessent rich, claiming responsibility for 75% of Bessent's bonus at Soros in 2013. Citron's fund, Discovery Capital, made 52% return in 2024 of Argentine assets, just before economic panic set in this year. In early September, just days before Bessent's bailout announcement, Citron doubled down on his Argentine bond purchases. Now, the connection to CPAC. The story doesn't end with Wall Street. CPAC long, a mouthpiece for Trump's America's First message, right? Quietly lobbied for Argentina's bailout through a newly formed foreign lobbying firm, which is called Tactic Global, founded by CPAC heads Matt and Mercedes Schlapp. Argentina pays the firm $10,000 per month to rescue U.S. political access. The deal is routed through Argentina's intelligence services, raising further questions. Now, CPAC has since promoted the bailout publicly, despite the fact that its own network helped broker it for a foreign government. Now, meanwhile, China is walking away from the deal with the United States. While U.S. taxpayers prop up Argentina and shore up the peso, right, the money from the tariffs, which is essentially the income tax on all of us purchasers, this money is now being used to bail out Argentina. Meanwhile, China has completely halted soybeans imports from the U.S. since May 2025. So that word Biden, whatever, May 2025, what are we talking about? In fact, during Biden presidency, the purchases for soybeans specifically went up. Now, China instead is turning to South American suppliers, including Argentina. U.S. farmers have seen exports to China drop from record highs in 2022 to zero. Quote, I asked them why. They said one word, Biden, Bessent said this week. What Biden? Now, what it all adds up to, right? So the U.S. is spending $20 billion to support a country that undercut U.S. farmers in favor of China. The bailout helped stabilize the assets of hedge fund billionaire with close ties to Bessent personally. CPAC, or America First Group, helped broker the deal behind closed doors. And meanwhile, U.S. farmers and taxpayers are footing the bill. So, more from the administration because we can't get enough. Well, today was not the official day for White House press briefing, but White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt welcomed questions outdoors in the Rose Garden. So there was this very interesting exchange where one reporter asked her point blank, shall now ER, right, or doctors essentially, check on immigration status before they provide care to somebody who is literally dying? Coming to ER, the person is about to pass out or has passed out already. Shall they first check for immigration, data and call up some authorities before they provide help? And she couldn't really answer. And I really want you to watch the entire exchange because, in fact, she actually did answer. It's 1 minute, 52 seconds. Bear with me.
Caroline,
there we go.
Should ERs check immigration status before treating a dying patient?
I'm sorry?
Should ERs check for immigration status before treating a dying patient?
That's probably not a question for me to answer. I think that's a question for healthcare professionals and legal experts to answer.
I understand why I'm asking you, because Republicans have been saying that Democrats want to give benefits to undocumented immigrants, even though it's against the law for them to get these benefits. I know there's some.
Let me ask you, do you think that illegal aliens should receive Medicaid benefits? Medicaid benefits that go to the most vulnerable people in our country. That Medicaid benefits that were designed to help low-income families and Americans in our country. And what the Biden administration did, Gabe, is they allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to come into our country, yes, and they paroled them into the system. And you cover immigration, and you know well, it was a complete abuse of our immigration system. And they slapped a Band-Aid on these illegals. They called it temporary protective status. And then they allowed those illegals from all over the world to get free benefits. And you know who would like free benefits? Hardworking Americans who work their butts off every day, who are living paycheck to paycheck because of the Biden-induced inflation crisis. And there were higher wait times at hospitals under the Biden administration. We saw these illegals committing crimes all over our country, and they're getting things for free. That is fundamentally unfair, and this administration is not going to support it.
Should ERs, if a person comes in with a stroke or a bullet wound or is bleeding out, should they ask for immigration status before treating that person?
Gabe, I don't speak for emergency rooms across the country. I speak for the President of the United States, and that's what he believes on this policy. Nancy.
Please leave my butt alone, my hardworking butt. I don't want you to even think about it. But also what Caroline Leavitt did, once you call the White House, you can test it for yourself if you're up for it. Instead of picking up the phone or allowing you to record a message, that's what you hear.
Make it call it.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will...
You can't take a freaking message. That's what this phone is for. For media, you have different phone number where they do sometimes take your questions. With Biden administration, I always had to call once, write one email, and not because I'm special, because they were actually working. Very nice. Check your comments. Hey, Martha, thank you for coming here. Thank you. KKK Leavitt. That's so funny. Michael says they were probably saying we want Biden. The Chinese. Yeah. That is funny. Looks like Jared Kushner is back to the White House fold. He's back in Saudi Arabia. Biden was one of the toughest presidents on China in the last 50 years. Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so quickly to fact check on that Medicaid thing. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for full Medicaid benefits, but if somebody is dying and coming to ER, they will be getting help. And then if they do have Social Security number, then the financial department will be literally on their, what Caroline Levitt says, butts. If not, then it will be handled. But there's always resources for this type of occurrence, because what else are you going to do? Have people dying on the streets, just laying there, and just, is that easier? Is that cheaper also? Very nice. Hi, Smith. I just want to say I love your yellow shirt. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's like a lemon dress. And I had to pin it because it's like, there's that type of show. So I had to quickly scramble and pin it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. All righty. So European Political Community Summit. Let's talk about that. This is what's happening in Copenhagen. So if you hear about Copenhagen now, that's where European leaders are meeting. Also, around 28 CEOs of the biggest corporations and companies in Europe are there as well. They all are trying to figure it out. First of all, of course, they talk about defense, but they also talk about trade. How can they, to put it frank, bypass the United States? So from security to enlargement, Copenhagen was center stage this week. Now, today, we a bit covered it yesterday. Remember when Macron said, let's not use 140 billion euros of Russian frozen assets for Ukraine, because Putin says he will nationalize our companies. The question is, why the hell are your companies still there? But okay, new day. Zelensky strengthens Nordic security ties at Copenhagen summit. So there he met with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Also, Zelensky met with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store, and all of them focused on air defense, military aid, and joint responses to Russian escalation. So as to Denmark, they integrated air defense and drone wall, right? So leaders discussed recent Russian airspace violations in Denmark, Poland, Romania, Norway, and Estonia. Zelensky proposed advancing joint EU air defense system with Ukrainian expertise supporting the EU's drone wall. And that initiative. Ukrainian service members are already in Denmark working with their Danish colleagues. And so Denmark is first to implement this and say, hell yeah, to Ukrainian expertise. And this is so interesting. I really want us to hold on here and just go 3 years back when Ukraine was asking for drones, for money, for intelligence, for Starlink. Remember this whole story? Please give me Starlink. Yeah. And now 3 years later, Europe is trying to get some expertise from Ukraine. What were you doing for 3 years? Sitting on your behinds? Now, Denmark announced a new 360 million euros military aid package, with most funds directed to Ukrainian defense production, of course, because that's going to indirectly benefit them, and pledged an additional 90 million euros for the Pearl initiative. That's the one through NATO. Essentially, they buy from United States, NATO countries all transport, and it through Poland comes to Ukraine. As to Norway, Norway reaffirmed its commitment with $8.5 billion in aid this year to Ukraine. And this is not because suddenly everybody loves Ukraine. First of all, Norway did well before. But this is very telling as to how the know-how or the intelligence that Ukraine has gathered and the production that Ukraine has put together, and now is producing drones at scale for cheap, right? That's how it is valued. My question is, what were you doing for 3 years not doing this? I mean, imagine where we could have been right now 3 years in, instead of now scrambling because Putin is literally laughing in your face, and I have a readout. So, but $8.5 billion this year to Ukraine alone from Norway. Huge. Discussion centered on strengthening air defense and funding drone production in Ukraine. Norway contributed $150 million to the Pearl Initiative. And see, that's what I want you to pay attention to. $8.5 billion direct aid to Ukraine to produce more Ukrainian drones, get intelligence, make them better at scale and cheaper. 8.5 billion. 150 million, that's what we buy from United States. And that's what you got. Play stupid games, win stupid prices. Now, that's through the Pearl Initiative. So whenever you hear Pearl, P-U-R-L, that's buying from United States. That's what it means, right? So, and Norway pledged $100 million for gas imports to bolster Ukraine's energy resilience. So, now, shared security goals. Both meetings highlighted coordination against Russian hybrid threats, particularly drone incursions across northern and eastern Europe. Zelensky emphasized Ukraine's readiness to share technology and operational expertise with Nordic, EU, and other EU partners. Quote, Ukrainian expertise and technology can play an important role in building Europe's drone wall, President Zelensky said. And this sort of like, okay, if you really want to, okay, I'm going to give you some help 3 years in. So what I want to show you, though, at the same Copenhagen summit, there was this clip that was viral. Whoever posted it went viral with it, including moi. So remember Trump meeting with Azerbaijan and Armenia. He didn't solve anything, but they gave him this win, so to speak. But then he started calling Armenia, Albania. Albania is 20 countries away from Azerbaijan. It's too funny, right? But now, the president of Albania, that's the tall guy that you will see in a second, and Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, were standing with Macron and laughing essentially at Trump, saying to Macron, why don't you congratulate us on this big win? And Macron is like, what type of win? They go, yeah, because Trump solved our war. Don't you know? Check it out.
You should make an apology. Yeah. To us, because you didn't congratulate us for the peace deal that President Trump made between Albania and Azerbaijan.
I'm sorry for that, guys.
Yeah. So, and you worked very hard.
8 months.
You worked very hard.
You worked very hard on it. Yeah, you worked for 8 months, very hard on it. It's just laughing stock at this point. Jules is refined too. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Sean says, are you able to do guests on your stream? A second lemon dress thingy. A second lemon dress? A guest? Able to do guests on your stream. I can do guests on my stream. All right. Taylor, thank you so much or justice for Breonna Taylor. Thank you for reposting the stream. Martha, you're probably anti-fascist. I think all of us are. I think I can pledge for everybody who's here. Ukraine has all the smarts to build the drones. I'm happy Norway is investing in them. Yes. Classic. Yeah. Okay, moving on. As I mentioned, Maya Sandu had a special this light is weird. Sorry, I don't change colors. But anyway, I don't control the sunshine. Moldova had a special invitation directly from Mette Frederiksen, the Prime Minister of Denmark, to join this summit in Copenhagen. And of course, there, Maya Sandu met with Zelensky. Take a look how this went down, and then I'm going to have a readout. Okay. Has no sound, so here's the readout. President Maya Sandu met with Zelensky and emphasized Moldova's readiness to join the EU. And she says, with a strong mandate from our citizens, I'm here to advance Moldova's path towards EU accession and to promote peace in our region. As neighbors, we stand by each other and we have each other's back. And she was warmly welcomed by Prime Minister Frederiksen. Look at these beautiful sunflowers and everything behind them, with flowers and just gorgeous. But I want to show you the video that I did not put in tonight's news briefing. By the way, if you're not subscribed, please do go to onestnetwork.com. You can subscribe there. If you're on Substack, just search for Onest, O-N-E-S-T. It's also pinned to all my social media profiles. It has no paywall. Just subscribe. Now, so I want to show you the video where she was asked about the election in Moldova. And just as interesting to hear her speak because she got so much attention recently from those who haven't heard from her or of her, but also how she describes the achievement by folks of Moldova, how they did not succumb to propaganda. Take a look.
Moldovans voted clearly for Europe despite Russia's massive interference. These were not simple elections. This was a test for democracy under attack, and the Moldovan citizens passed this test. Our authorities managed to disrupt Russian schemes. We managed to uncover the truth about what Russia was doing, and this has helped. You saw the local press and the international press showing how Russia was hiring people to produce false content and to distribute it. And the government of Moldova managed to eliminate all the Russian money, or most of it, which was destined to finance illegally political parties who were to bribe voters.
If we could only be Moldova, right? European Parliament President Metsola then spoke out again at the same summit in Copenhagen, very straightforward, issuing a very straightforward invitation to both Ukraine and Moldova. And she said this has to be done by end of this year. Take a look.
It is time, finally, to open negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova, and we need to do it by the end of this year. Enlargement is a win-win for the European Union. It is not charity. It is something that works for all of us. It is one that will make us more secure, one which will make us more strategically in control, and also one that we can really show that our people open the door to countries and their populations when they want to come in.
Meanwhile, Italy and France launched a new initiative against narco trafficking. 35 heads of state, as you see here, have mobilized, and more. United Europe is protecting its own citizens. So this was, of course, headlined by Macron and Meloni and happened exactly at the same summit in Copenhagen. Now, back to Russia. Was not love. Russia's multi-front sabotage, right? So first, let's get into some facts. Remember, we're talking about, I was presenting readouts from the Russian administration where they said, oh, Ukraine is planning false flag operation against Poland. And we all understood that it's sort of like precursor that actually Russia is planning on doing that. So that terror plot failed. Polish outlet Wyborcza reports that Russia's GRU, this is their police, so to speak, the national state police, was preparing attacks using tin can bombs disguised as food products in Poland, Lithuania, and Germany. Explosives-laced tins were intercepted in Lithuania. A Russian boat was spotted loitering near a gas pipeline in Szczecin, Poland, and Warsaw and Vilnius are pushing to ban all Russian vessels in the Baltic Sea for 4 weeks. Make it indefinite. Why 4 weeks? They can wait. They're good in waiting. Ban them. You are at war. If you don't know it yet, we know. We know from our angle here from Northern America, it looks kind of like you're at war. So maybe. But what's interesting, remember yesterday we were talking, and day before yesterday I said, look, that drones over Europe kind of look like that mothership and drones near our East Coast in North America last year, about 8 months ago, which was then China, right? It came out that China was behind it, was testing something. Kind of looks like what's happening in Europe, right? So a Chinese state-owned company, CITIC Telecom, CPC, owns 3 undersea data cables, turns out, that are connecting Finland, Estonia, and Sweden. These cables handle critical NATO internet traffic, meaning Beijing controls part of Europe's digital infrastructure. And so some boats were also seen, those boats that are launching drones, were seen also in the Baltic Sea, checking upon their cables. And then Putin and Valdai, look how he looks like. Oh, look at this. Look at this beauty. Here we go. So he was in the Valdai Discussion Club, where Putin attempted to reassert himself after a wave of international mockery following Trump's public jabs. "There is no force in the world," said Putin, "that will dictate to everyone what to do and how to breathe, although many people tried," he says. He accused the West of deceiving its citizens, declared sanctions a failure, and blamed NATO for rejecting Russia's past membership attempts. So now you want to be part of NATO? You thought NATO is expanding. You're fighting expansion. And now you're complaining that they didn't invite you to the party? Ooh la la. Highlights. On NATO, quote, "Without Russia, the global balance cannot be built." On drones in Denmark and France, "Warned, then armed." I have exact readout, by the way, from that drone thing. Very interesting conversation. Obviously, it's in Russian, so I posted on Blue Sky a whole readout. So the moderator says, "Why are you sending so many drones to Denmark?" Putin says, "I won't anymore. UAVs won't go to France, Denmark, Copenhagen, Lisbon." Moderator, "You just scared Portugal. You mentioned Lisbon. They don't have much sense of humor there. It was a joke." Putin, "Why joke?" Moderator, "Then a warning." Putin, "Warned, then armed." Let's hold on here for a second. For the Western leaders who allow this, excuse me, moth, we call him a moth in Eastern Europe, the moth whose economy is in a shitter, who relies on North Korea, whose economy is in the shitter, and Iran, whose economy is in the shitter, and China, whose economy is not as blossoming as they want us to believe. He's relying on their help, and he's laughing in your face, announcing new drone incursions into your sovereign space that you are failing to protect because you are, once again, massaging your testicles instead of calling a thing a thing. Why is it that Turkey is part of NATO and Turkey acts on its own? I cannot physically imagine. I know there were analysts and experts, don't compare what was in Turkey 10 years ago where they shut down the Russian warplane and burnt the pilot and everybody. It just took 17 seconds to violate their airspace after one warning that was ignored. They just shut them down. This is very different from what it is now because it can trigger a big war. It's only different because you think it's different. It's same Putin, same moth, same shitty economy, same desperation, just 10 years older, even worse. On Charlie Kirk's murder, Putin also commented on that. He says, quote, "Disgusting. It's proof of America's deep divide." And then on Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine, he said Russia will respond accordingly if confirmed. And then the big answer, remember, like since the meeting between Zelensky and Trump at UNGA 80 in New York for a week now, everybody's like, "Oh, Tomahawks are coming. Trump is about to give Ukraine long-range weapons." Well, here's your answer. Despite Putin's chest thumping, U.S. officials say that the Trump administration's reported intent to send Tomahawks may not be viable as existing stockpiles are committed elsewhere. Here you go. So let's check some. Sean is the only one commenting today. Zelensky pushed back on Hungary at the U.S. Yes, and also there was this fun exchange. I'm not showing it because it's sort of like in Polish. But Orban was asked, "Who is our biggest threat in Europe, and is it Putin?" And he said, "No, economy being not competitive enough, economically seen, that's what's going to hurt Europe, but not Russia. Russia is weaker." And then Prime Minister Tusk of Poland came to him and said to the press, "I love when he uses my arguments." So, yeah. But see, that's the whole point. Orban or anybody who works for Kremlin, they are okay being embarrassed because they will say what the system tells them to say. They can be embarrassed today. They can be on a high horse tomorrow, but they're part of the same cinema. and that's what I see here, right? Nobody's making moves. Don't watch the tweets, don't read the tweets, watch the deeds. And the deeds say that there is not enough response and strength coming from Europe specifically, and forget about the United States at this point. When we're talking about North America, Mexico is really out of the conversation when it comes to protecting Europe. I mean, for all the different reasons. But Canada is, well, upping their defense, and I have a whole readout in a second here as well. So, but when it comes to US, they're playing for a different team. Now, quick national news: a war from within. Remember, Trump declared that. So now he describes the domestic deployment of federal troops as fighting a war from within. Federal officers continue to be sent to cities like Memphis and Portland, and also Chicago. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed that over 200 officers were federalized to the Memphis operation. Trump said National Guard members are also now in place in Oregon. Now, Musk versus SEC. Elon Musk failed to persuade the federal judge in D.C. to move his SEC's lawsuit against him to Texas. Musk argued he was too busy to defend himself in Washington. The case involves his delayed disclosure of large Twitter stake. Now, you can use lawyers. You think you're defending yourself there? Now, Trump family finances, and weirdly, we're talking about Eric Trump, who has reportedly opened a Citigroup trust that holds some of President Trump's money, according to Bloomberg sources. And pharma industry update. The Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act continues to reshape pharma. Eli Lilly has been asked to increase insulin production. Pfizer is expected to ramp up output of its top drugs, cancer drug Ibrance and cholesterol treatment Lipitor. AstraZeneca, based in London, has been asked to consider relocating its HQ to the U.S. Now, it has nothing to do with Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, it's running out, literally. That's what the whole discussion is about when it's when we talk about the government shutdown, right? The ACA running out. The truth here is that Trump is openly stating that he is seeking pharma industry deals before the midterms. I don't even know why he places midterms as some type of a timeline, because I hope we'll have midterms and they will be truthful. That's another story. But, Russia still votes for president, and it's always same president for the last 20 years. But on another note, he's seeking deals in pharma industry. So he did the deal with Pfizer. He's now trying to push Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, to essentially give him a cut. And that's what we see in a variety of industries when it comes to gas and oil, when it comes to literally anything. Right? He's trying to get a cut. And it all started when he started disapproving the deal, right, between Nippon Steel and their acquisition, right? And then somehow he allowed it when it was confirmed that he got a cut from it. And that gave the idea to continue with this approach in all other industries. And so this pharma industry is just one of the next ones. Now, what he's trying to impose also, unless they do this deal cutting scenario, he will impose 100% of tariffs on this medicine. Now, let's continue on the quick news. Supreme Court will hear arguments in January on Trump's attempt to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. If successful, it would mark the first removal of a Fed governor in over a century. As to military restructuring, and this is the biggest news, I think, honestly, if we are in America, this is the biggest news, and it's very much underreported. It's not reported in mainstream media. This should be the news number one. And if it comes to breaking news, when you put any American television, it's always breaking news. It's usually broken news, but this should be the breaking news. The Pentagon will downgrade the U.S. Air Forces in Europe and Africa command from a 4-star to 3-star rank, part of Secretary Pete Hegseth's plan to reduce top brass ranks across the military. Then they're adding that how can somebody become a 3-star general? Well, Access can recommend it, then it has to be, or actually President of the United States has to recommend it, then it has to pass through the Senate. But do you think in this constellation, when this administration is controlling all branches of the government, do you think this would be difficult to do? In fact, they just did it actually for Joint Chief of Staff. So they're replacing people with experience with their people full of loyalty. And when you saw the picture of those listening to Trump and the facepalm and all that, they had 4 stars. Those in the front were literally those generals seated, and that's who we saw in their reaction. So, but on the positive side, Barbara Streisand and Jane Fonda are reviving the committee for the First Amendment, founded by Henry Fonda in 1940s, Jane Fonda's father, and was founded to defend free speech against fascism. The relaunch includes 600 plus entertainment figures. Now, on energy projects that are now canceled, the Department of Energy is canceling $7.56 billion in financing for hundreds of stalled energy projects it says lack taxpayer return. Now, did we see any calculation where we can chime in as to, okay, I'm a taxpayer, I don't see much return. Okay, all right, cancel it out. Nobody is showing us anything. Why do you decide on our behalf, but then bring us as a reason? Critical minerals in play. The U.S. is offering to buy equity in Australian critical minerals companies to reduce dependence on China. Executive briefed in D.C. confirmed a funding package is in the works. Australia, what the hell you do? Data algorithms and college costs. Congressional Republicans are demanding records from companies allegedly helping colleges manipulate admissions pricing using applicant data and algorithmic tools. And as to Walmart and the dye-free trend, Walmart will remove the artificial dyes and additives from all private label food and beverages by 2027. Competitors like Kraft Heinz, General Mills, Kellogg, Campbell's, PepsiCo, and Utz have pledged similar changes. Here's a quote from the Walmart CEO, John Furner. He says, quote, "Our customers want simpler, more familiar ingredients, and we've listened," unquote. I think it has all to do with us caring more about what we put inside our bodies than RFK Jr.'s achievements. But of course, it's being touted as RFK Jr.'s achievement. What else do you expect? So, more national news about the DOJ. And the DOJ is shutting down key units in sweeping reorganization of the department itself. So, U.S. Justice Department is undergoing most significant reorganization in 2 decades. They're cutting 275 positions and promote shutdown long-standing offices tracking drug cartels, racial tensions, and access to justice. So, what's changing? Task force closure. So the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement task forces created under President Ronald Reagan to combat major cartels will be eliminated. And here's a question. Aren't we fighting cartels? That's why we're bombing fishermen boats from Venezuela. But now we're closing the department that should be combating those cartels. Is it because that department was saying that the fishermen boats had nothing to do with drug cartels? One can wonder. The Community Relations Service, which for 60 years has mediated racial and ethnic conflicts, will be also closed. The Office for Access to Justice, which supported Americans' access to legal counsel, is also being closed. The DOJ's tax division will be folded into its criminal and civil divisions at a cost of at least $3.1 million. The U.S. DOJ's Interpol liaison office will be merged into the U.S. Marshal's office. And this is really, I mean, it again goes very much underreported. So Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is calling, appointed, of course, by Trump, approved the plan in September for all of this. While DOJ says the changes aim to promote efficiencies and effective governance, critics argue the cuts undermine critical missions. Now, here, Senator Chris Van Hollen said, well, he accused DOJ of making changes without congressional approval, calling it not normal. I think it deserves more than not normal. Stacey Young, former DOJ attorney and founder of Justice Connection, warned, quote, "This isn't reorganization, it's decimation of some of DOJ's most vital work." That meets the moment. Thank you, Stacey Young. Now, what's on the table for now? The plan does not include controversial proposal to merge the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, right, the ATF. That idea first floated in March, faced bipartisan backlash and strong opposition from both agencies and advocacy groups. It's unclear if the merger could be revived later. Then, DOJ overhaul reflects a broader Trump administration push to reshape government, scaling back environmental and aid programs while redirecting resources towards immigration enforcement. But shutting down cartel-focused on and racial mediation units has raised alarms inside and outside the department, even among those aligned with administration priorities. And that is my whole point. That is exactly the question I'm asking, because if you state that your priority is to fight drug cartels and to curb the fentanyl flowing inside our country and the criminals that bring it, and then you shut down those that's supposed to fight it and have actually experience and expertise fighting it, then I really don't understand what's true at this point. Maybe you know better. Michael says, I saw that U.S. F-35s were spotted near the coast of Venezuela. Yes, they have USS. I think 2 of them standing there. So obviously, that's where they park. Skyman's Follies, hello. Okay, you're asking question here regarding Trump poll numbers. I know they're bad, but are you hearing anything in terms of if they're expected to move the needle or not in upcoming November 4 elections? You mean 2026 elections, or you mean like the current We in New York vote in November? Yeah, he's 48% now, right? What is true at this point? Here I have 2 answers, or the answer has 2 parts. First, if we cannot trust economic data, unemployment data, any type of data, on tariffs, on, Trump is saying we're getting $3 billion, trillion, gazillion dollars a day, and it changes constantly. He says we have a huge deal and just blurts numbers with this country, that country. Then you check with the country, they say we have no idea. We didn't have a deal. We cannot trust anything stated publicly at this point. It comes from the administration. It's paraded and blasted out by legacy media. You can't trust it. So those exit polls that say 48%, who the hell knows? Secondly, Russia still votes for president, and the president has never changed for the past 20 plus years, I think 25. Venezuela also voted. Belarus votes too. You get my point? So, yeah, there will be an election, because canceling out an election will cause a shitstorm. Yeah, there will be an election. Will it be pre-mediated? Will somebody plug in numbers and say, well, he won or whatever? Or maybe there will be, J.D. Vance will take over before that type of election, and then we just continue with him. So you get the point. Like, there probably will be an election. Same for midterms. Will it be truthful? Is the biggest question here. And if it's not going to be truthful, or will not feel like it is not truthful, who will combat it? Jeffries and Schumer? You see them combating the shutdown. People will go on the street. People will, what's going to happen? And you just said the 2025 current upcoming. That's the whole point here. Okay, we'll have a preview. Which exact election are you referring to? If we talk about New York, okay, I think Mamdani will win, and then Trump will use that to deploy National Guard to New York. If, okay, Cuomo wins and Cuomo folds and becomes MAGA next day. That's what I predict. I just don't believe anything at this point to be truthful because we get data that is obnoxious. We get reports that based on Truth Social posts, and those posts have no factual value and they're never confirmed by the other side. Meanwhile, we have no readouts from any bilateral meeting. The schedule today was president is receiving intelligence briefing at 11 a.m. period. But then we're reading that there are, deals with pharma industry, deals with this, deals with that. Then we signed the Article 5-like agreement with Qatar. Attack on them is attack on us. We had no clue about it. So when I post the schedules that are empty, stop laughing and calling him a vegetable. What it means is that everything is under the table and off the record. Hey, Tony. Not sure the polling data that is upcoming is even remotely accurate right now. Right. Yeah. See, and that's my whole point. Yeah, we will have elections. Will we be able to trust results? We're getting data. You can't trust it. It's obnoxious. You have legacy media, and by that I mean even Bloomberg, Financial Times, spreading out essentially misinformation, talking about the economic data a month ago. And when I start asking around, everybody's source was a video by Lutnick when he went on television and said, this is the number. We made $3.3 trillion. This was the source. So polling numbers, I think at this point, whoever runs a poll will just want to cater the administration or cater somebody else or provoke an answer from administration. So they will get on administration's radar and then they can fold and get the connection, right? Because sometimes you have to provoke the beast to cause, to get the beast to pay attention to you, and then you can play friendly. And this you see so many times. Okay. Canada. Let's talk about Canada. Canada launched a defense investment agency today. I posted the whole article about it, so you can dive in. But shortly, Canada is overhauling its defense procurement system with the creation of the new Defense Investment Agency, the DIA, announced by Prime Minister Carney. The agency is designed to deliver equipment to the Canadian Armed Forces faster, strengthen sovereignty, and grow Canada's defense industry. So why does it matter? Because for years, it took years and decades for armed forces to get a hold of military equipment. So this streamlined procurement by the DIA will streamline procurement by cutting red tape and centralizing approvals. It will boost jobs and innovation in aerospace, shipbuilding, and advanced manufacturing. It will engage industry earlier to ensure realistic cost timelines and tech solutions, and ultimately align with allies like the UK, France, Australia, while helping Canada meet NATO commitments. US was not mentioned here. As to leadership, Doug Guzman, former deputy chair of RBC, has been appointed as the agency's first CEO. His financial and project expertise will guide the rollout of new procurement teams and priority contracts. Now, as to the bigger picture, the government is committing to increase defense spending by or up to 2% GDP, which is $63 billion by 2025, 2026, and then ultimately 5% by 2035. And with 81,000 jobs already supported by Canada's defense industry, this DIA aims to supercharge growth and innovation while ensuring the military is future ready. And here's a quote from Mark Carney. He says, Canada's leadership is not defined by the strength of our values, but also by the value of our strength. He keeps bringing up the same quote. It was in New York too, 3 times. Okay. As to Hamas, remember Trump, Gaza, big deal, but Hamas has to agree, but Trump doesn't know when. So today, White House said Trump will think about when the deadline will be for Hamas to agree to the deal, probably 2 weeks. But on another hand, Egypt is working overtime to convince Hamas to agree to the deal. And Egypt's foreign minister confirmed that Cairo, Qatar, and Turkey are pressuring Hamas to accept the U.S. plan and warned of escalation if the group refuses. Now, here again, you have to follow the money and think, do you think the Middle East is trusting United States or Trump personally to give him Trump Gaza? No. Does everybody want to get rid of Hamas? Probably. Will that be the quickest way? Yes. Do you think Qatar and Egypt and Turkey cannot buy a city in Trump Gaza? Remember, I showed you the map. It will have like sub-cities. Yeah, they can buy it out from Trump. They have the money for it. So that's the state of affairs. But jokes aside, Gaza is being leveled. Like, they're rolling with tanks over them. And I have a readout on the help that was aiming to get there and was blocked by Israel. Now, Pope Leo XIV spoke for the first time, very straightforward, and he spoke about climate change and our ineffectiveness in combating it. So, at a climate summit outside Rome, Pope Leo XIV issued a forceful appeal for global climate action. Quote, "We cannot love God, whom we cannot see, while despising his creatures." The pontiff called on civil society to pressure governments to adopt stronger environmental protections. Just a week after President Trump called climate change the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world. So, again, will it bring change? Let's hope so. Do we expect it? Not really. Polls are trolls, says Sean. Yeah, get out and vote. They can say anything. The cult just laps it up. Yeah. Okay. Papua New Guinea, their cabinet has approved a mutual defense treaty with Australia, which is important. You know why? Because then Russia can get to them. Canberra's first such pact is over 70 years. The agreement allows PNG soldiers to serve in Australian military. China, PNG's largest economic partner, issued a criticism, of course, warning that no treaty should block a sovereign nation from working with third parties. Oh, you didn't get there. It's the same story when we had this Crimea platform with Zelensky and all the leaders at the UN last week. And I was sitting there and everybody was laughing. Why? Literally laughing, which is obnoxious for diplomats, to react that way. When, which island was it? I'll post the picture and the readout. And I think I shared it on Blue Sky when we were there. And anyway, the leader of a very tiny island. I have a name, but I want to double check and to say who that was. And the diplomats were saying, why is he here, right? It's a Crimea platform. He's somewhere very deep in Africa. He's a very tiny island. And I said, are you less than smart? Don't you know that Putin actually made a pact with that specific island in 2024 to put a military base in 2025 there? And this was completed in April of this year. And that entire island is now Russian military base, right up your behind. And you think you're so big and mindful and why the guy is here. So for that reason, you have to pay attention to the tiny spaces and islands because they're very much in play when it comes to China's influence, Russia's influence, and the way of combating it. Now, as to Synagogue attack in Manchester, it left 2 people dead. They were killed on Yom Kippur. And by the way, if you're of Jewish faith and you're celebrating today, we're with you. And I wish you a very peaceful celebration. But as to the terror attack, it was at the synagogue in Manchester. The suspect is believed dead. UK Prime Minister Starmer is returning early from Copenhagen summit and pledged additional protection for synagogues nationwide. The attack follows arrests in Germany of 3 alleged Hamas members planning assaults on Jewish and Israeli institutions. As to Gaza aid for Gaza, it was blocked by Israeli Navy. Israeli forces intercepted over a dozen boats trying to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza, organized by a multinational organization of 500 plus activists. Israel claimed the boats were a provocation, not a legitimate aid effort, and the incident comes amid ongoing blockades and famine conditions in parts of Gaza. And by the way, here's a clip that I forgot to show you. Remember when we talked about the Trump Gaza and how Tony Blair will be playing a big role there, and Tony Blair has been with his think tank working on Trump Gaza together with Boston Consulting Group, and that entire structure is presented by him to Trump. Putin was asked today about Tony Blair, and then he said that they spent the night together in London, and then they drank coffee in the morning in pajamas. Weird. Take a look. Oh, that's a picture. Here we go.
Ну, я его лично знаю. Больше того, я был у него в гостях, ночевал у него дома. Мы с ним с утра в пижамах кофе пили и так далее. Да. Вот.
Кофе хороший был?
Да, вполне.
Suddenly everybody talks about Tony Blair. Was he put that Trump Gaza together by Putin and suggested to Trump, and Trump didn't know about it? And okay, while we're bailing out Argentina, their peso plunged again this week, forcing central bank to sell dollar reserves to stabilize it. The move follows last week's pledge by Treasury Secretary Bessent to provide support through Exchange Stabilization Fund, though Washington has not yet acted. They will act soon. We had the full readout earlier. Now, as to U.S. trade benefits, they expire for Africa and Haiti. Two U.S. trade programs that provided duty-free access for Haitian textiles and African exports expired on Tuesday. Despite lobbying by African and Caribbean governments and the American Apparel and Footwear Association, only 1 year extension for the African program is currently supported by the Trump administration. And all of this happens while UN is trying to actually help Haiti. So, lastly, what's coming up? UK and Germany will host another coalition of the willing. Will they be willing but impotent? Who knows? We will be seeing that on Wednesday, October 15th. Not this Wednesday, later. United Kingdom and Germany will co-host the next meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group at the NATO headquarters in Brussels. The session is expected to focus on air defense, joint procurement, and winter battlefield needs. Now, what to look out for? We have another election. Czech Republic will be voting. Tomorrow, voters in the Czech Republic begin parliamentary elections with key issues including inflation, energy, and continued military support for Ukraine. Also, again, heavily infiltrated and manipulated by Russian propaganda. So if you are in Czech Republic, check yourself. Okay? All righty. I think we're done. Madeira. Where? Capo Verde. Yes, Esther. Thank you. Capo Verde. Yes. Thank you. I posted on Blue Sky. I was unsure was yeah. Thank you. Capo Verde. Yes. And there was the whole story because I was asking them, is it Cabo or Capo? And then they said, well, we switched to like Spanish spelling, and yeah. Thanks. Have a great night. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Sean says, did Putin just come out of the closet? Yeah, right? We were in pajamas with Tony Blair drinking coffee. Coffee was quite good. And hello, Lisbon. I'm about to send some drones to you. How disgusting. But anyway, as I always say, keep your head on a swivel. Have a peaceful night. Again, if you're celebrating Yom Kippur, happy, I guess, New Year and prosperous, time. Let's put it this way. But most importantly, please have a peaceful night. We'll see each other tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll round up the week. For the Sunday edition, we have the non-political Sunday edition newsletter and also curating culture. The next episode Curating Culture on Sunday, where I will take you to the Highline Park. If you're not familiar with the Highline Park in New York, in Manhattan, it's I'll tell you all about it, but there's a whole thing and you'll feel like you're walking through the park, and it was a great weather, and I'll tell you all the data and the stories, and also it will be a nice Curating Culture episode for Sunday. Very, very peaceful. Okay? So thank you again for being here. Have a peaceful night. Thank you for commenting. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Esther, Mike, Skyman's Follies, Tony. Who else? Thank you for sharing the posts or this live stream. Who else was commenting? Somebody was running away before. Martha, yes. Thank you for being here. See you tomorrow. The newsletter is coming in just a second. So, yeah, see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a peaceful night.